Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Phyllis Summers finds herself in the wrong place at the right time, or maybe the right place at the worst possible time, as she pauses outside an unrestricted office door and hears voices that incontinently make her blood run cold wave, because inside that room Kane Ashby is calmly laying out a plan so dark, so advised, that indeed Phyllis, who has seen falsehoods, schemes, and crimes tear families piecemeal, can hardly believe what she's hailed. And as she presses herself near to the wall, heart pounding, she realizes Kane isn't just talking strategy or commercial warfare. He's assigning Billy Abbott a charge that sounds terrifyingly close to murder, speaking in measured tones about how some problems can't be negotiated down, and how certain people are better off removed permanently. Words that echo in Phyllis's mind as she struggles to breathe still enough not to be detected. While inside the room, Billy's voice trembles with unbelief as he pushes back, asking Kane if he's lost his mind, only for Kane to coldly respond that hopeless times demand unrecoverable results, reminding Billy of everything he stands to lose: his freedom, his children, his formerly fragile character if certain trueness ever come to light. And Phyllis suddenly understands this isn't just manipulation, it's blackmail, because Kane easily has commodity on Billy. Commodity important enough to force him to indeed consider crossing a line that cannot be uncrossed. And as Phyllis listens, shock gives way to sweat when Kane names the intended target in veiled language, describing a liability who knows too important and is hanging to expose a chain of events that would destroy multiple lives, leaving Phyllis frenetically trying to erect together who this person could be: Jack, Victor, Adam, or someone far more unanticipated. And with every second she listens, the peril grows not only for the unnamed target, but for Billy himself, who sounds decreasingly trapped. As Kane lays out a nipping timeline, averring this has to be soon, and that it has to look like an accident, because anything differently would raise too numerous questions, and Phyllis's stomach turns as she realizes she may be the only person who knows this plan exists, making her both a substantiation and implicit target, because Kane isn't a man who leaves loose ends, especially not now when his calm surface masks a ruthless determination to control the chaos he's created. And when Billy eventually falls silent, neither agreeing nor refusing outright, Kane takes that silence as concurrence and ends the discussion with a warning that failure isn't an option, at which point Phyllis slips down, her mind racing, knowing she can't defy Kane directly, and she can't go to Billy without exposing herself, leaving her trapped in a moral agony where every choice could lead to bloodshed. And as she retreats to suppose, the weight of what she's eavesdropped crushes her, because she knows Billy well enough to understand how guilt, fear, and pressure can push him toward destruction, especially when someone like Kane is pulling the strings. And the question that haunts her is whether Billy is able of going through with it, or whether this crooked assignment will eventually break him beyond form. While away, Kane moves through Genoa City with unsettling confidence, masking his docket behind polite grins and strategic meetings, because from his perspective this isn't murder, it's damage control, and he convinces himself that immolating one life to save numerous isn't only necessary but justified, revealing just how far he has fallen from the man he formerly was. And as the hours pass, Phyllis debates her coming move, knowing that exposing Kane could boomerang disastrously if he spins the story or destroys substantiation, but staying silent could bring someone their life. And the pressure escalates when she notices Kane watching her just a little too nearly at society, making her wonder if he ever knows he's been eavesdropped. And that fear intensifies when Billy shows up looking pale, distracted, and visited, attesting her worst reservations that Kane's trouble worked and that Billy is seriously considering the unbelievable. Indeed, as he tries to move himself, he's just buying time. And in a detail-charged exchange between Billy and Phyllis, loaded with implied trueness, she sees the torment in his eyes and realizes he may formerly feel condemned, which pushes her near to making a dangerous decision of her own, because Phyllis Summers has no way been suitable to stay quiet when lives are on the line. Indeed, if speaking up means risking everything. And as night falls over Genoa City, alliances begin to shift, with whispers circulating that commodity is veritably wrong, that Billy is acting out of character, and Kane is moving pieces on the chessboard far too snappily, while the implicit target remains. Ignorant that their life hangs in the balance, fully unconscious to the storm gathering around them, and Phyllis eventually resolves that she must act, indeed if it means defying the one person who thrives on chaos more than she does, because if Kane truly believes he can orchestrate a murder and walk down clean, he's undervalued the power of verity and the fury of a woman who refuses to let another innocent person come contributory damage, setting the stage for a disastrous showdown, where secrets will be exposed, commitment tested, and the line between victim and villain will blur beyond recognition. As Billy stands on the edge of a decision that could define the rest of his life, Kane tightens his grip on his deadly plan and Phyllis way into the fire, knowing that formerly this lemon explodes, Genoa City will no way be the same again. Kane's chilling command ripple outward, unseen but unmistakable, and Phyllis finds herself unable to sleep, replaying every word she overheard with agonizing clarity, because the more she thinks about it, the more she realizes this isn't an impulsive threat meant to scare Billy into submission. It's a carefully constructed endgame, one that Kane has likely been planning for weeks, if not months, which makes the danger far more real and far more imminent. And as dawn approaches, Phyllis decides that knowledge without action is complicity, yet every potential move she considers feels like stepping onto a landmine, because going to the police would require proof she doesn't have, and confronting Billy outright might push him closer to doing something irreversible out of sheer panic, while Kane, ever the strategist, continues his day as if nothing is amiss, attending meetings, exchanging pleasantries, and reinforcing his image as a man in control, all while subtly monitoring Billy's behavior, testing his resolve with loaded comments and thinly veiled reminders of the leverage he holds. And Billy, already spiraling, begins to unravel under the weight of the assignment, haunted by the implications of what he's been asked to do, imagining headlines, prison bars, and the faces of his children when they inevitably learn what kind of man their father became. And yet the fear of Kane's secret coming out gnaws at him just as deeply, creating a psychological trap with no obvious escape. As the pressure builds and Billy starts drinking again, convincing himself he needs clarity, when in reality, he's numbing the terror that's threatening to consume him, and Phyllis notices the signs immediately, recognizing the familiar pattern and realizing time is running out faster than she feared, while elsewhere the intended target, still unaware, moves freely through Genoa City, unknowingly crossing paths with Billy in moments charged with eerie tension, small interactions that take on sinister meaning now that murder has entered the equation, and when Kane finally pushes for a status update, his tone deceptively casual, Billy snaps, demanding to know how Kane can live with himself for orchestrating something so monstrous, only for Kane to respond with icy resolve, insisting that Billy doesn't get to judge him after everything he's done, and reminding him that history will never see this as murder if it's done right. It will see it as fate, an accident, a tragedy with no villain. Words that send a chill down Billy's spine because they reveal just how far Kane has detached himself from basic morality, and as Phyllis secretly watches these interactions unfold, she realizes Kane isn't just manipulating Billy, he's grooming him, slowly eroding his resistance until carrying out the act feels inevitable, which forces her to make a bold move she's been dreading, reaching out to someone she swore she'd never trust again, believing that only another master manipulator might be able to stop Kane before it's too late, and that decision sets off a chain reaction of suspicion and paranoia as Kane senses the shift, noticing subtle changes in Phyllis's behavior, the way she watches him too closely, the way conversations stop when he enters a room, and his instincts tell him someone knows more than they should, prompting him to quietly accelerate his timeline, pushing Billy harder and issuing a final ultimatum that leaves no room for delay, while Billy reaches his breaking point, standing alone with the weight of the decision crushing down on him, torn between self-preservation and the horror of becoming a killer, and in his darkest moment, he considers following through, not because he wants to, but because he feels trapped in a nightmare with no other exit, and that's when Phyllis finally intervenes, confronting Billy in a raw, emotional exchange where she reveals just enough of what she knows to shatter the illusion that he's alone in this, telling She overheard Kane, that she knows about the mission, and that she refuses to let him destroy himself or someone else to save a man who would never show him the same mercy, and Billy's reaction is explosive, oscillating between relief, rage, and fear, because her knowledge both saves him and endangers them both, as Kane is not a man who forgives betrayal, and Phyllis makes it clear that the only way out is exposure, that they have to flip the script and force Kane into the light before blood is spilled, even if it means detonating secrets that could bring down multiple power players in Genoa City. And as they scramble to gather leverage, Kane begins to close in, realizing Billy is stalling and Phyllis is circling, prompting him to issue one final warning that confirms Phyllis's worst fears, because now she knows she's no longer just an observer, she's a threat, and in Kane's world, threats are eliminated, non-negotiated with, raising the terrifying possibility that the murder mission could shift targets entirely, turning Phyllis herself into collateral damage, and as the tension reaches a fever pitch, alliances collide, long-buried grudges resurface, and the truth inches closer to exposure, setting the stage for a showdown that will redefine hero and villain alike, because in this twisted game of survival, no one is innocent. Everyone has something to lose. And the moment Kane's secret finally explodes, the fallout will be catastrophic, leaving Genoa City scarred by the realization that the most dangerous monsters aren't the ones who act in rage, but the ones who plan in silence. Phyllis' final answer for the game show is about Kane. This is what happens when Victor throws Jack out of the house. Billy thinks that Victor is going to throw Jack out, and that will be the answer for the Kane question. The answer is that Victor throws Jack out. Billy Abbott is going to give Kane Ashby an answer. At the time, Victor Newman will throw Jack Abbott out. Sharon Newman is at her house. She will see that Nick Newman slept on the sofa. He did not sleep in the guest room. Nick Newman will think about something that happened before. He remembers holding a bag of fentanyl on the porch. He does not remember what happened after that. Sharon Newman wants Nick Newman to go back to the hospital. She wants the doctors to check him out. Nick Newman wants to talk to Victor Newman first. He really needs to talk to Victor Newman. At the house on the ranch, Victor is going to tell Jack to get his hands off Nicky Newman. Jack and Nicky Newman will try to tell Victor that it was a hug to make each other feel better, but Victor will ask Jack to leave. At Society, Diane Jenkins Abbott and Kyle Abbott are making phone calls to help Jabot get back on track with things in stores. Then Jack will show up. Tell them what happened with Victor, and that Kane offered Chancellor to Billy. That will bring concerns about Billy putting himself in Victor's crosshairs. Back at the ranch, Chelsea Lawson and Adam Newman will speak with Nikki and Victor about the steps they have been taking. There will be stories published that heavily imply Kane and Phyllis Summers committed computer fraud when they accessed the Newman system to create chaos. Adam Newman will talk about the state and federal laws that might have been broken by Kane and Phyllis Summers. It will be mentioned that Victoria Newman filed a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission about what Kane and Phyllis Summers did to the Newman system. Nikki is going to think that this is not an idea because Victor took the AI program without permission. Adam will say that it seems like no one can figure out what is going on. Chelsea will say that since Phyllis put the program in, she will probably get blamed if something goes wrong. Nick will come in, ask what is happening with Newman. After Nick asks about Matt Clark, Victor will tell him that Matt Clark has been taken care of. Nick is going to say that they should deal with Kane the way they dealt with Matt. So Victor will say that he has thought about it. Victor has some other things that he needs to take care of first. On Kane's train during Thursday's episode of YNR, Victoria will come in, say that the Newman takeover is not going to happen no matter what. Victoria will tell them that she called Lily Winters. Then she will say that Lily put the phone on speaker so Maddie Ashby was able to hear what they were talking about. Victoria will really make it clear that the Newman takeover is not going to happen. She is very serious about this. The Newman takeover will happen over her body. Victoria means it. Victoria is going to say that Maddie and Lily were already finished with Kane. Now, they are even more disgusted with him after they heard about what he did this time. Victoria will also talk about Charlie Ashby. She will be happy that she called him. When Victoria teases Kane about Charlie Ashby maybe giving his dad another chance, she will say that is not going to happen. Kane will get upset because Victoria is using his family against him. He will say he does not care about that, and he thinks Victor should just accept that he lost to Kane. Victoria thinks that Kane should be worried about what his family thinks of him, Charlie Ashby. Kane is going to try to act like he does not care what Victor or Charlie Ashby think. Victoria knows that Kane is just trying to save face. Victoria is going to throw Summer Newman's disapproval back at Phyllis and tell her that she never deserved to be with Nick. Phyllis will just act like she does not care all. She will keep talking about how great she is coming out on top in all of this. Victoria will go back to the ranch. Tell Kane and Phyllis all about what happened when she visited them. Victor will leave a message for Jill Abbott saying that Kane did something just like he thought he would. So Victor will be waiting for Jill Abbott to call him back about Victoria and the whole situation with Summer Newman and Phyllis and Kane. At home, Billy and Sally will keep arguing about the Chancellor situation. Billy and Sally will not agree on this. The Chancellor situation is a deal for Billy and Sally. In the end, Sally will say that Billy can make his decision about the Chancellor situation, but Sally will also have to think about what she wants for Billy and Sally's relationship. Sally will remember things that happened with Abbott Communications. She will think about how much more of this she can handle now that Billy is obsessed with the Chancellor situation again. This will make Sally call Audra Charles. Leave a message because Sally needs to talk to someone about Billy and the Chancellor situation. As for Billy, he'll head to Kane's train and argue with Phyllis briefly before giving Kane his answer. Kane will make it clear that it's a resounding yes and will be ready to move forward with a Chancellor deal. Billy Abbott eventually reaches the breaking point and delivers his final, unrecoverable answer to Kane Ashby, a decision that not only reshapes business alliances, but also sends shockwaves through the Abbott and Newman families, while Victor Newman unleashes his fury in a jaw-dropping battle that ends with Jack Abbott being violently thrown out of Newman Enterprises, marking one of the most humiliating and explosive moments in their long, bitter contest, because it all begins when Kane corners Billy in a tense late-night meeting, pushing him for a clear commitment regarding the secret deal they've been dancing around for weeks, a deal that promises power, vengeance, and the chance to eventually bring Victor Newman to his knees, and Billy, visibly torn, spirals between his old reckless instincts and the hard-earned maturity he's been fighting to hold on to, knowing that whatever answer he gives Kane will define who he truly is now, not just as an Abbott but as a man trying to overrun his own destructive history, and as Kane lays out his final pitch, offering Billy control, influence, and the satisfaction of watching Victor lose everything, Billy's mind flashes back to the innumerous times his impulsive choices bring him his family, his character, and nearly his life, and in a nipping moment of clarity, Billy eventually looks Kane straight in the eye and delivers his final answer: no more games. No more secret wars. No further deals erected on falsehoods. And vengeance, because he refuses to become the man Victor Newman wants him to be, and Kane is stupefied, his confidence cracking as he realizes Billy isn't pretending this time, that this is another half-ignited Abbott scheme, but a hard stop, and Kane's wrathfulness snappily replaces a shock as he accuses Billy of being weak, of choosing morality over palm, of betraying an occasion that may no way come again. Yet Billy doesn't blench, rather calmly advising Kane that Genoa City is littered with men who allowed they could outwit Victor Newman, and he wouldn't be joining that graveyard, a statement that echoes ominously just as the focus shifts to Newman Enterprises, where Victor senses treason in the air like a bloodsucker smelling blood, because whispers of Kane's maneuvering have reached him, and Victor, formerly on edge, processed Jack Abbott under the pretense of a business discussion, though everyone in the room, including Nikki, can feel the storm brewing beneath Victor's cold wave-controlled surface. And when Jack arrives, confident but conservative, Victor wastes no time ripping into him, criminating Jack of conspiring with Kane, manipulating Billy, and trying to destabilize Newman Enterprises from the inside, and Jack, blindsided and furious, denies the allegations, averring that Billy made his own choices and that Kane is acting alone, but Victor isn't interested in explanations, only control. And as the argument escalates, decades of resentment slip out, with Victor reminding Jack of every failure, every loss, every moment Victor surfaced victorious while Jack was left picking up the pieces, and Jack fires back, criminating Victor of poisoning everyone he touches, of ruling through fear and destruction, and of eventually being responsible for the chaos tearing Genoa City piecemeal, and the room crackles with hostility as Nikki pleads for calm, but Victor snaps, his tolerance gone, his voice roaring as he declares that